Today I thought I will take from the break from the West and talk about something nearer home, to my home, that is Sri Lanka. And it's similar to Sri Lanka is Pakistan and Turkey. But I am not going to talk about Turkey and Pakistan today, and I am going to concentrate on Sri Lanka. The world economy was badly battered by COVID. Sri Lanka has two major exports through which it earns foreign exchange. One is export of tea from northern hill regions of Kandy. Also, it is a great tourism place. The beaches of Sri Lanka are very famous. So these are the two major revenue earners for Sri Lanka, though there is a bit of garment and textile exports, but still it has not become a world beater. In COVID, tea and also tourism suffered a great, and also textiles suffered a great deal. And Sri Lankan economy, which was already in deep trouble after a decade or half of war and had barely time to recover for 5 years, sunk back into a deep recession. To make matters worse, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who's the president, and the Rajapaksa family, which virtually controls Sri Lanka today in an authoritarian government, leaving no democracy there, seems to have decided to ban use of fertilizers. And because they had banned use of fertilizers and organic farming was the rule, the production of tea and other products collapsed. So even before the COVID pandemic fully lifted, Sri Lanka was in deep crisis due to fall in agricultural production. Prices of food articles were rising. The only brief respite for Sri Lanka was the collapsing oil prices. But ever since COVID finished and oil prices started rising, Sri Lanka got into serious troubles. And the impact of COVID was enormous in Sri Lanka because their reserves were not enough. Tourism and tea exports were not bringing in the money because tea itself had collapsed because of organic farming. To make bad things really bad was the Ukrainian and Russian war. It hit Sri Lanka in three different ways. One, oil prices went up. It went up as high as 130, collapsed back to 98, but is back at 107. And IEA warns that Russian crude will disappear next month, and prices of oil are stated to be elevated throughout the year. And as COVID ends and winter thaws in Northern America, it will be the start of the driving season, and it will mean that more crude will be consumed, and prices of crude will stay high. Russia is a major importer of tea from Sri Lanka. So the war in Russia has meant that Sri Lanka is not able to sell tea and manage to get some forex from the Russians. The Russians are fighting their own battles with declining ruble. Unlike India, Sri Lanka cannot make an enemy of the Western world by supplying tea and thumbing noses at America. There is a huge problem. Also, among the tourists who came to visit Sri Lanka, Indians and Russians were the main visitors. The war has meant that tourism in Sri Lanka is further taken a hit. What has this meant? A rupee, Sri Lankan rupee, which was at 150 before the COVID started, dropped to 206 as COVID ended. This war has made sure it has gone to 277 rupees to a dollar. Imagine, Indian rupee is at 75. You can buy practically three and a half Sri Lankan rupees to an Indian rupee. It is one of the cheapest places in the world if you want to travel. Things have got from bad to worse there. Food prices have kept going up, and there's a huge shortage of food. Before the outbreak of the war, in a pig-headed move, the Rajapaksas thought that hoarding was the only problem, and by bringing in military rations, they could solve the problem. Military rationing only made things worse. A couple of black marketers were caught, but you have to realize the biggest black marketers are the government officials themselves. There is no long-term solution to this problem unless Sri Lanka decides to reform its economy and disbands its army completely. It cannot spend so much on its defense for an enemy that does not exist. But without the brutal army and the police, the Rajapakshas cannot control this government. Sri Lanka is heading for a big disaster. This is what eventually happens to all authoritarian regimes. This happened in Russia, it happened in Soviet Union, it's happening in Turkey. So any regime in the world that is authoritarian, finally the economy will collapse. Today, nobody is talking about ethnic war in Sri Lanka and taking revenge. Both sides, Sinhalas and Tamils, are suffering, and their food rights have broken out. People are killing each other for a loaf of bread. Sri Lanka simply doesn't have enough foreign exchange to pay for its debt. India has done its bit by giving it $1 billion of credit, but India can do more and get into the Sri Lankan economy to integrate it with the Indian economy. Integrating the Sri Lankan economy with India would benefit both countries, but we are not in a position to do that. Most of Sri Lanka's forex troubles also have emerged from the fact they have borrowed heavily from China to build infrastructure. That infrastructure is of no use today, but the Chinese are extracting their pound of flesh and are not willing to write off their debt. Sooner rather than later, Sri Lankans have to swallow their pride and go to the IMF. The IMF will make very strict conditions which will not be palatable to the Sri Lankan government. They will ask for a further sharp devaluation in the Sri Lankan rupee, say another 10 or 15%. It will happen that Sri Lanka's rupee will go to 300 to 325 even before we can talk of the crisis. In the short term, some money will be given to Sri Lanka to tide over the crisis, but interest rates will go up, businesses will suffer before it can recover. I'm reminded of the suffering that Greece went through when its actual debt was found out and it went through a tough period. Greece is still not out of the woods 10 years down the line, but Sri Lanka is in for a long struggle. So is Turkey, so is Russia, and this is a warning for all authoritarian regimes around the world. Thank you for watching. Be rich. If you like this video, kindly consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the bell notification. If you do not turn on the notification, you will not be notified every time we put out a video. Kindly consider sharing this video with your friends and relatives. Once again, I thank you for supporting Be Rich. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.